Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 7th, 2012 meeting of the Capital Improvement Committee. We will start with introductions, beginning with Brian.
My name is Brian Rose. I'm the Planning and Zoning Administrator.
Sue Tremblay, School Board Rep.
Gail LeBrecq, Community Member at Large.
Tim Redmond, Planning Board Member and Chairman.
Earl Carroll, Community Member at Large and Vice Chairman.
Mark Lemay, Board of Selectmen's Rep.
Alan Yaton, Community at Large.
Lowell Von Ruden, Community Rep.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. First order of business tonight are the minutes from the May 31st meeting. Do we have any corrections or changes? If people have not had a chance to read them, we can postpone them till our next meeting.
I'm all set.
I'm good.
I'm good. Motion to approve.
Motion by Earl Carroll to approve,
I'll second it.
second by Alan Yaton. Any discussion? No discussion, we'll move for a vote. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstaining.
Sue is abstaining, and chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you. Brian, do we have any administrative business to discuss before we begin this night's meeting?
Not really. The only thing that you have out in front of you is a new matrix for this week and with updated school information. And actually also hopefully updated library. I may not have updated the library information like I was supposed to. And I know they're on tonight, so.
You did last time.
Yeah, we got a new
You
update.
did give us
Well,
a,
I gave you the updated paperwork, but I'm not sure if I updated it in the matrix.
okay.
I may have,
Well, we'll find out when we
not
get
done
there.
that, so. anyway.
So we have, everyone received an updated capital project worksheet submission form from the library at the last meeting. It was a substitute sheet.
Yes.
Okay. Sue, did you give Sue one of the updated ones, Brian?
Yes.
Okay.
I had it all updated, and we just gave her the book tonight, so I've been updating it as we go.
Are you ready, Gil? Or are you getting caught up?
No, I'm fine.
Give a minute here to let Ivan get settled. The library is on page 3 of the new matrix. You settled, Ivan? We get going?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, sir. All right, we invite the representatives of the library to come forward, please, and have a seat and introduce yourself for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Eddy. I'm the chair of the Planning and Communication Committee for the Board of Trustees of the Library. This is Linda Stoner, who is also a member of the Trustees of the Library.
Could you spell your last names, please?
Could
Excuse
you
me?
spell your
Your
last
last
name,
name?
please, sir? Wayne?
Last name is Eddy, E-D-D-Y.
Easy enough.
And mine is Stoner with 2 N's.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I think I wrote it with one.
S-T-O-N-N-E-R?
Correct.
Correct. Got that, Gil? Thank you for that. Please, make your presentation.
We have 3 projects before you. The first one I'm going to talk about is requesting money for next year. It is a repair and maintenance project. As you know, the library is a brick and granite building for the most part, but it has a bunch of wood trim on it. Also, the room that was added on for the elevator equipment when they did a small addition years ago to make the library handicap accessible is all wood. There were some pictures with the submission. I don't know whether you got copies of those or not. I have
We
a
do. We
couple of
have them in our-
extras if you need them.
We have them in our packet.
All right. And you can see from those pictures that there are a number of areas that show rot underneath the paint. So all of that needs to be removed and repaired and replaced. One of the things that I've learned from my own experience is that when you have rot like that, what you see is not all that you find when you start to take it apart. We had one estimate, a preliminary estimate for $20,000, but we put $28,000 in and decided to put it in as a capital improvement project, under the advice of both a representative from CIP or from Budget and a representative from the Selectmen, being afraid that if we tried to get, if we went in for less than what CIP required, that we might not have enough money when we get into doing the repair and so forth. And we need to get better estimates, but there's no point in getting somebody to really go through it in more detail till we know that we can go ahead with the project.
Okay,
So that's the basis of what that project's about. One of the things that we've discovered to our own dismay is that we've never had a plan to periodically do maintenance on large items like painting and so forth. And so that's one of the topics that we're gonna be working on as a board to, in the future, to have a more regular plan for doing this kind of maintenance, try not to get surprised with it. But for now, this is something that we just need to do to preserve the building.
anybody have any questions about this project?
Earl?
Mr. Eddie, just a couple of things. This is not the first time that the library trustees have come in requesting funds for library maintenance in the same year. Several years ago, there was flooring that came up, same year. And I appreciate your efforts to come up with a, if you will, long-term plan to go forward with this so that we're not faced with a situation where you come and say, we need to do this now. I understand there's always going to be issues like that. But historically, on CIP, we have tried to emphasize to the department heads or the trustees, as the case may be,
Yep.
that this is a planning function. And just as we need to plan, you need to plan. That being said, I don't have a problem with this. However, speaking of planning, how will doing painting, replacing soffits and things of that nature now impact on your next project, the library expansion? In other words, are you going to be doing something now that's going to need to be redone in a couple of years because of the expansion plans?
From what I know about the expansion plans, very little of the area that's involved here is going to be affected by that. I can't say that we won't affect some areas that got painted, but most of the rot and so forth is on places that are not going to be affected by the expansion,
Okay.
at least as far as I know. Perfectly valid question, though. And when you say same year, are you saying that we want the money for this summer? Or are you saying that?
Well, you've got it into the 2013 budgeting
Correct,
cycle.
correct, all right, and that's what you meant by same year, okay.
Right.
All right, you're correct then.
I would add that the library has a very strong board of trustees, stronger than it has been in a long time. And there's a lot more focus on both doing some of our own fundraising as well as some long-term planning. There's more focus on that than there has been in the past. Wouldn't you say that?
I would, although I've only been on for a year, but yes, that's definitely one of our goals. And we admit that we fell down on this and that we want to plan better for this. But at the moment, we don't have a lot of choice right now, because the longer we let this go, the worse it's going to get. But I think you all know that, you understand that concept. So, but you're correct, as far as our need to plan.
Alan?
I'd just like to comment on the fact that it is a historic building. It has certain guidelines and requirements, which means they can't alter it pretty much, and if they do expand, which reaffirms your comment to you, Earl, that would be no plans to change the exterior appearance, because the fact the building's on the historic register, it does establish some criteria for preservation of that building.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what good planning is, but I mean, looking at the pictures that were presented, please don't use finger-jointed pine for trim work on the building again, because that's half your problem.
Well, you're talking from an architect perspective.
Oh, God, yes. I mean, there's junk on the library. Whoever put that on there again for. didn't give us the best product at the end, so. Their estimate probably should entail not just painting, but maybe some replacement of the deteriorated trim, and I think he's gonna find that most of it
Well,
is rotted.
the new estimate does include replacement, and the project description definitely includes replacement. Now, I don't believe that we have to replace all of the trim, but
I looked at it, I think you probably should be planning to do that.
do you think all that soffit needs to be replaced too?
Not the soffit, not the
Just-
historic things, those can be rebuilt. They can be foam, they can be faux
Right,
details.
right,
They're
right,
Foam, plastics,
yeah.
and those are very readily available. It can be made to match exactly what's there.
I think you're looking at two different times of construction too, Alan. The main building is granite and brick, whereas this picture of this door frame with the finger jointed pine looks like something they may have been added on
That
at a
was the
later date.
That's the elevator shaft.
That's where
Machine room door.
the elevator equipment is housed in there, and
So-
that addition was partly brick because of the new entryway and so forth that was at ground level, but, the elevator equipment building, for whatever reason, was built out of wood and apparently was not the best of quality.
Any other questions on this subject? I would like to ask you, how bad is this condition, this rot and such? It's got to do with the determination of your classification. You have this classified as a number 2, which is necessary. Are you satisfied that that is the correct classification for this project, as opposed to an urgent, which is a number 1?
Yeah, I think I am. I mean, if we let it go too long, it'll become urgent. I think we want to get to it before that. From what we've been able to detect so far without going through and taking it down and finding out what's behind it, my thought is that it is necessary, but I'm not sure that it's urgent.
Okay. Just want to be sure that that was...
I guess we'd have to understand better the definition of urgent, but urgent means,
Urgent means it needs to be done immediately, or your building is in...
We've always considered that life safety issues
Right.
as urgent.
all right, it's not in that category,
That
no.
would go back to our description. Okay, good. All right, well then, if no one else has any questions about the first item, the $28,000 project for 2013, we'll let you move forward and give a presentation on the out years, if you'd like to.
Well, all right.
We have seen this before.
You have seen this before. It's actually presented as 2 projects, I guess because most of the board felt that that's the way you wanted it, but it's really one $4.3 million project, of which $150,000, and we put a little more of the planning money in the first year, into 2015. Last year it had been presented as $100,000 the first year and $100,000 in planning, in architecture and so forth the second year. We felt that probably we really needed more in the first year in order to get plans that were detailed enough that we could do fundraising and we could know what size bond we really needed to go after and those kinds of things. So that's the only change that's been made from the way it was presented last year.
Okay. You have anything to add, Linda?
I guess the thing I would add is the library is terribly, terribly cramped for space. It is a real issue.
I was talking with a citizen the other day, and was saying that I had been working the book sale last Saturday in the rain, and she said, "Why didn't you do it in the library?" And I said, "There's not a possibility of space to do anything like that in the library." I think we all know that if we've been there, but it shows that some people don't have a comprehension that my understanding is that the size of the square footage we have now per capita is way below what is normal around the state. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but
In order to bring in any new material, they have to get rid of existing material. It's a real crunch for space.
Anybody have any questions on the 2015 request for $150,000? And then a 16 request for $50,000, so the taxpayers would be asked for $200,000, I would say, upfront
Mr. Chair,
in,
If I can make that correction, the worksheet shows it correct, the matrix shows it incorrect. That's what I was talking about, I needed to update the matrix.
So what is the numbers need to be changed
So
in the matrix, Brian?
it should just be,
115 for 2015?
150 in 2015, and then the big bond for the 4,150,000 on the second line for the library expansion bond. So
So
the
it's-
But
the
there
other
is al-
50,000 gets moved into the bond is
That goes into the
essentially what
bond.
happens, yeah.
Okay.
That's for, what, administrative services during construction?
What's that, Alan?
That 50K?
No, that's not in there. That's, Brian said that 4150 is all for the,
No.
But that 50K represents construction administration by the design professional,
No,
correct?
well, the 50K was for architect, engineering, and planning, and apparently has gotten moved into the,
Yeah, I think Alan's right.
I don't think it's in the bond. I don't think so,
You don't think we could put it into the bond, is that what
No.
you're saying?
no.
As a soft cost?
You can do anything you want. But I'm just saying, well, I'm just saying, when you're talking about architectural engineering, it really is 200,000. And at 200,000, the town's getting a real bargain on a $4 million project. 5%? Unheard of.
well, we'll let the library come back with that in the outcoming years, because there's nothing that
Yeah.
requires our attention this year.
Yep.
So we'll let them and work it out how they want to adjust the sheet for the next 2014 to 2019 CIP process.
I do have a question about the presentation. Right now, I actually have two projects in front of me. One says architecture and engineering for the library expansion, and it shows the 150 and then the 4150 in the bond. But there's also a project that says library expansion, which is essentially the same project, that shows 150 in the first year and 50,000 in general fund the second year and 4.1 million in the bond.
That worksheet looks like the old worksheet that we had
Well-
first, and then I asked Diane to clarify where the money was, because there was a duplication of the numbering.
But-
And so she sent me back a revised, taking that 50 and plugging it into the bond amount. So that 50 is now no longer on the worksheets that we all have in our books.
Okay, but what I'm asking is, are you really considering it just one project? Because we made two separate submissions, one called architecture and engineering and one called library expansion, because that's what the board felt that was wanted.
These are separate projects according to the capital improvement project worksheets. 150,000 for 2015
Yep.
for the our engineering and architecture, and then in 2016, they're looking for a bond for 4.15 million.
Right.
It really shouldn't matter either way. I mean, we could plug it into the same line and make it, 150,000 on the same line as then the next year you get the 4150,000,
This is a moot point.
150,000.
This is a moot point for
Let it
tonight. We
go.
don't need to
Okay.
discuss about this
Okay.
tonight.
It's not a big deal.
We can move on with the presentation, and you guys can work it out and resubmit for next year. We know that you're looking for 150 plus 4150 for a total cost.
Yep.
So that's, you've got your these are placeholders, if
Right.
nothing else.
Right,
So you're good to go for now.
okay,
But the 28,000 is the important submission for this year.
correct.
Okay. Do you have any other questions for the library representatives tonight? If not, we'll thank you for coming in, making
Thank
your
you.
presentation.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank you.
Okay, the next up would be the school district.
Can I just ask you a question about the 4 million? That's a bond, but the bond payments are out over a longer period of time.
20 years.
And do we stretch that out now, or just leave the 4.1 million in 2016?
No, I think we should leave it alone, and then if they are going to move forward, they'd have to show what the bond payments would be.
Yeah.
They'd have to show us what the bond schedule would
And
be.
then it's stretched out.
Right, and those payments would start probably on the matrix in 2017. So we could project now, but it really doesn't make any difference.
Because bond payments are gonna change from year to year, too. They're not gonna always be the same, right? Don't you start out with
Yeah, yeah.
one number, and then you settle into a number on the out years?
Right, And until you know what the bond interest rate is gonna be,
You can't
you
project.
can't project anyway.
Okay.
I mean, if we wanted to, we could use today's numbers to fill in the blanks in 2017 and 2018, but I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference, not at this stage of the game.
It's not, it doesn't weigh in on our discussions right now, Alan.
Okay.
The library traditionally doesn't ask for very much, but when they do ask for something, they ask for it.
Let's get to Mr.
Before we
Warren.
begin with the school, I'd like to invite Hank to come up a little closer than the rear of the auditorium there. He is a past CIP member and a member of the school board. I'd like to see him be up here and join us. You're the only other person in the room, so come on up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
That
sir.
just means it's all your fault.
True. I've been blamed for a lot of things.
Could you please identify yourself for the record, sir?
Sure.
I know
My
we all
name
know
is Ray Labor. I serve as the business administrator for SAU 19, and I'm here tonight to present on behalf of the Goffstown School District. We have a total of 19 projects to review with you this evening, and Mr. Chairman, I seek some guidance. We do have a mix of old projects, some that you've seen before but have been revised, and we have a handful of new ones. Level of detail desired by the committee, I guess, is what I'm asking for right now.
Well, what I would suggest is that we have at least 2 new members on the committee. So what I'd like to do is I'd like you to go into detail on your new projects. And we don't have to brush over the older projects, but we can review them in a little more brief fashion. And should any of the new members that haven't been here for actually 3 new members, haven't been here for the previous discussions, if they have questions, we'll slow this presentation down and we can talk about them.
It's fine, thank
And
you.
if they're in the way out years, the 3 years and 4 years out, maybe we won't lean on them so hard because they will become more familiar as the years pass on to members of the committee.
And we've also got 4 things that we've taken off the list for the simple reason the mild winter has given us the funds to go ahead with those projects.
Okay, great.
The other thing, Tim, I know we had some questions last week, I believe from Alan, if memory serves me correctly, regarding the building performance upgrades.
Mm-hmm.
And Ray, if you could, this is an item that's been in CIP for a number of years. I notice it's the first item.
Well, Ray can delve into them a
Yeah,
little
just
detail.
want to give a little
And I'll-
background for the new folks.
And I'll explain to Ray why, is because the planning board has received an energy audit from Southern New Hampshire Planning, which they've asked us to put into our master plan.
Okay,
It has subsequently been voted to be an accessory document and not put into the master plan at this time. And there was a lot of talk there about saving money through energy conservation. And we defended you folks at the school district for your efforts through your performance upgrades at both Bartlett and Maple Avenue over the years. And you have presented to us real savings in dollars. So if you want to talk about a little bit, maybe some of the other board members would
Great.
enjoy some of the information.
sure, we'd be happy
Copy
to.
of the matrix too, if you want to
Okay.
reference it, just for, so you can talk the same line numbers as
I better
those
do
guys.
that.
Okay,
That'll be-
is it the same one you sent me? I do
That
have
was
that
just
Put 'em on
that,
vibrate.
that portion of it, I think, so
Yeah, because
you-
this is my personal phone,
I
this
think
is the
that's
town's
probably the.
phone. I have to have that on me in case there's something important comes up, like a dead cat.
Okay, there is a change, thanks.
Jim Bolton.
I'm both of them.
Yeah.
Ray, please
Okay.
begin.
Line 250 on your matrix talks to the building performance upgrade for the Bartlett Elementary School. This project was originally presented back in 2005, and we kicked it off at that point. It is it's a 10-year project. We are entering year 8 in 2013. And the project kind of included a whole host of different activities. Lighting upgrades, we moved from the old T12 fluorescents into, back then, higher technology or newer technology fluorescent lighting. We installed preheaters for the fuel oil that was running into the boiler systems. We took a look at some weatherization for windows, doorways, And we did install pedal fans for increased ventilation in some of the school areas, notably the gymnasium over at the Bartlett School. The project was coordinated with Honeywell Energy Management Systems. And Honeywell actually served as the agent for the school district at that time to basically help the school district develop the projects and then present the projects to the Department of Education in Concord. At that time, the work that was done there was eligible for building aid. And the school district still enjoys about a 30% per year payback on the investment that it had made. With respect to cost savings and benefits from these projects, we had always talked in terms of cost avoidance. Cost avoidance being if the work had not been done, how much would the school district have had to pay heating oil suppliers, propane gas suppliers, Public Service of New Hampshire for energy. After the enhancements were done, then we take a look at what the costs actually paid into these suppliers were, and we were able to determine savings based upon a cost avoidance. And that's in essence the way we're approaching this. As of today, and this is the total project that I'll be sharing with you, savings, because we did the same kind of work at Maple Avenue. We'll talk to that a little bit later on this evening. But when we look at the project in total, this will be through year 6.
That's 2 buildings combined?
This is 2 buildings combined now. We had talked in terms of a total cost avoidance of $848,683. And this would have been at the conclusion of year 6, which finished off in August of 2011. Honeywell had guaranteed the school district a total savings of $536,000. So the net increase that we're seeing right now through cost avoidance is a $312,000 gain. This is savings over and above the guarantee that was offered by Honeywell and what we're actually ended up spending with our suppliers. So all in all, it's been a very beneficial project for the school district in that we're generating this type of cost avoidance. We're also enjoying the benefit of building aid for the work that was done, and we'll have this on our plates for another 3 years. As a sidebar, and this is not a project that we'll be sharing with you this evening, but the school district will begin a new conversation with Honeywell to determine what a potential next step program might look like. And we perhaps will bring that back to you.
Pardon?
I thought you wanted to say something.
No. And we'll perhaps bring that back to you next year. I guess my question right now, in that the town is looking at energy audits and potential programs, it might be very beneficial for both entities to work together on this. So I can perhaps pick it up with you, Brian, to see what we might.
We're going to adopt that Southern Hampshire Planning Energy Audit guidelines as a separate document, and we can share the information and then pass the document on to the different departments and let them
Great.
see where they can utilize the savings, or contact Honeywell or any other
Great.
corporation that's willing to work with us.
Good. That note.
Well, you also have the Energy Committee, the public one.
Well, that hasn't been formed yet. It's coming, right?
It's already in place.
Sorry, I thought it was going to be
And I
part
think
of
there's an
the...
Energy Committee that's been utilized. They were presented here at the Energy hearing.
They are,
I didn't realize it was a de facto committee. I thought it was
they are
something less.
operating as a committee. They aren't officially a committee, as like sanctioned by the Board of Selectmen or anything like that. But they are volunteers that meet together and discuss energy issues for the town of Goffstown, so.
Ray, as we move into Maple Avenue, Mountain View, and the high school, As you presented last year, some of the standalone projects for boiler replacements, oil tank replacements and such, were going to be incorporated into the renovations.
Right.
And if that's gonna be the case in some of these, then you can do a little gliding job over some of them if you'd like, not go into
Okay.
too much detail about them.
Will do, but there's a slight twist to.
Well, I don't want to,
Presentations.
I don't
this
want
evening.
to curtail your presentation, I just wanted to make that available.
Okay, thanks. Okay, this is gonna be your line 251 on the matrix, and it's called the Bartlett Facility Phase 2 renovation. This is the or part of the elementary reconstruction and renovation project or bond that was proposed to the district voters back in March. What it involves, quickly, was basically the tear down of the existing 1922 building and construction of a new facility on its footprint, which would, in essence, add 11 new classrooms to the Bartlett facility. There was a detailed project plan that was presented to CIP last year, and there've been a series of bond hearings, so I think most, if not all of you, should be aware of what that project entails.
Ray, Bartlett's not getting 11 rooms.
Sure is.
Bartlett?
Yep, that's the new construction, Sue. Yep.
Where are they gonna put 11?
No, again, the tear down of the existing 1922 building
That's true.
and
Okay.
reconstruction on that footprint.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, would add the extras. So by doing that again, there would have been an upgrade in the existing 1960s wing. That's the portion of the school that borders Mast Road. And there were a series of, again, energy improvements, lighting improvements, and ventilation, heating and ventilation enhancements that were going to be made on that aspect or that part of the building. The existing portables at the Bartlett site would be removed because we would be moving the library in from the portable setup out there and incorporating that as part of the new footprint, the new building footprint. Portables that would be moved from the Bartlett site, and we're also looking at removal of the portable at Maple Avenue. Those two structures would be located, current plan, at the Goffstown High School property site. And those structures would be used to house the current alternative education program, which is conducted in lease space over on Depot Street in Goffstown. This would present a savings of about $26,000 per year in lease costs for the school district. And we would not incur any additional expenses in that both of the portables have been bought and paid for now for a number of years.
Does anybody have any questions about the Bartlett portion of the matrix? Alan?
Just a quick question. Under cost breakdown,
Mhm.
it says vehicles and capital equipment. What is that
I
number?
guess we looked at-
350K.
I kind of used the capital equipment line as equipment for new technologies, electronics that would be going in, and other capital equipment items.
But no vehicle.
No vehicles,
Thank you.
none at all.
All right. And the second one was, in the narrative, it made mention to a neighborhood kindergarten classroom. Can you explain that?
That was one of the original intents for renovation work. If we go back a few years now, the Bartlett update was scheduled in 2 phases. In phase 2, the intent was to add additional classrooms, which would allow perhaps a kindergarten classroom to be put back into the Bartlett School, thus providing for a neighborhood opportunity for those children in Pinardville.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions on the Bartlett portion of the matrix? Please?
Ray, with the rear building, the 1922 building being torn down, I got a couple of concerns. One is, what are you going to do with the kids who currently occupy that space, or the facilities that currently occupy that space during the probable 2-year construction period?
Great question, Earl. The plan is, we're looking at both elementary schools and having a simultaneous project going on at both. Year one activity, should the bond vote be successful in March of 2013, year one activity would be to start an immediate construction project at the Maple Avenue School. That can be done more or less on a on a basis not as disruptive as the Bartlett work would be. It would be a separate section of the building, ironwork and actual brick and mortar piece, if you will, could be conducted.
There's no demo at Maple Ave.
No, it's all new construction. The plan would be to get those classrooms, 10 or 11 classrooms, constructed at Maple Avenue, and then we would be moving children in grades 3 and 4. That's the current plan. That are at Bartlett, we would bus them for a period of 1 year to Maple Avenue for classrooms. This would allow the demo work at Bartlett and the reconstruction to start there. The following year, year 2, that work would be done. The children would then move back to the Bartlett School and operations would resume. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My other concern, of course, was the duplication of costs and work that has gone into the building performance upgrades. Obviously, that was probably not a total loss in terms of what was done in that building.
But we're not going to lose any of that, are we, as part of this?
Well, that's my question. Are we going to lose any of that?
You're not going to lose much, let's put it that way. What you would lose perhaps is some of the weatherization work that was done on the windows and doors inside the 1922 building. A lot of the infrastructure or the mechanical system upgrades, specifically the boilers systems and some of the ventilation work that was done on the 1960s wing, stay in place and would not be disturbed with the reconstruction and renovation work.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, let's move on to the Maple Avenue portion of the matrix.
Okay. First one I see here would be line 254 on your matrix, and it's for the boiler replacement at Maple Avenue. What we've done is to move the boiler replacement out by 1 year to 2015. This work was, again, considered to be part of the renovation and reconstruction package that we wanted to incorporate if we had the successful bond vote this year. It didn't happen. The bond is going to be put up again for 2013. If the vote is successful, this project comes off the matrix, the $48,000 for the boiler. If the bond vote is not successful, then I believe the school district will want to keep that in place and proceed with the boiler replacement on as a standalone basis.
In 2015?
In 2015.
Okay.
Again, we've talked about relative ages of the equipment. This particular unit will be about 25 years old. And I don't want to muddy the water for for this particular project, but the existing 25-year-old boiler is likely to be kept in place at Maple Avenue The reason being is that Maple is the only school in our district right now that does not have a redundant heating system.
All right.
This would serve as a backup or a second boiler unit for Maple Avenue.
Okay.
So if the bond is positive, we put the new unit in. If it's not, if it doesn't turn out, then this is a project that needs to happen in 2015.
Okay.
Okay?
Good.
We're going to be talking about boiler replacements too at Mountain View Middle School, and I just want to spend a little bit of time now to talk about a broad brush definition on what we're doing. We're not necessarily staying with number 2 heating oil. As part of this project work, and we had talked about a new initiative that the school district is exploring with Honeywell, we want to make or go into alternative heating sources that might be available to the school district. We don't know what those are right now. What we would love to see is a concerted effort by the village section in town here to get the natural gas line extended into the village, given current costs for that. Boy, how beneficial that would be to all of our municipal buildings and school district buildings. That's one alternative, maybe. Another might be what other technology would develop within the space of the next 2 to 3 years. Geothermal, does that become more cost efficient? That is kind of expensive these days. Lots of attention's being paid at wood pellet systems as a renewable energy source. So there would be an investigation conducted by the school district as to what the best approach would be for this new system, both at Maple Avenue and at Mountain View Middle School. Sorry to be jumping around like this, but
We'll catch up.
for line 255 on your matrix, it's calls for an oil tank replacement at the Maple Avenue School. Again, this is an attendant project with the boiler upgrade. We will either put a new oil tank in at Maple Avenue, should the decision be made to stay with number 2 heating oil. If the decision is made to look at an alternative source, we'll need to pull the existing tank out of the ground and remediate the actual soils that the tank has been sitting on for the past 25 years. Again, the concern is with age of the existing tank. The vintage was the same as the tank at the high school that we had to replace 3 years ago now. And it's the same vintage as the tank at Mountain View Middle School, where we've had to replace the cathodic protection system on it last year. So things are beginning to go. These are aging. They're steel-walled tanks, and
Yep, we
the
understand.
attendant problems with age. So it's going, we've estimated project costs at being anywhere from $55,000 to $130,000, dependent upon what we have to do. If it's a case of pulling the existing tank out of the ground and remediating the site, it could be as low as $55,000. If we need to put a new tank in and do soil remediation work, it could go as high as $130,000. So we're projecting the highest number
And
here.
soil remediation is based on the fact you're assuming it's leaking.
Correct,
And if it's not leaking, then you have no remediation.
correct. We're
Ray,
trying to bound the project cost.
Ray, I also note that you're saying that, again, if the bond passes, then this will be included
That's right.
in the bond appropriation. If not, it's got to be a standalone project.
That's
Right.
correct, Al.
Okay, and the next one is line 258,
Moving on.
57, excuse me.
Line 257, this is the sister project for the Bartlett renovation work. Again, we had talked about building 10 to 11 new classrooms at each site, incorporating all of the necessary ADA upgrades at each facility, installing new heating and ventilation systems, installing new technologies in the classroom space that's going to be constructed. And in the case of Maple Avenue, we were actually going to be adding some room to the administrative office area. Again, the specifics of the project have been out there. If there's any questions on exactly what is going to happen, I'd be happy to take them now and try to fill in any details that you folks might be
Question,
looking
Tim?
for.
So is this essentially the flip-flop of the Bartlett thing where you're gonna do the classrooms and then you do a second phase in 2014 and that'll be the administrative part?
On this one, Brian, the major work would start, this would be the construction of the classroom space and the administrative areas
Okay.
in 2013. We would be looking at 2014 pretty much as the wrap-up work, bringing in furniture and equipment and finishing off the, you know, the painting and floor installations, that sort of thing.
Okay, so if I hear it right, would that space that you do in phase one be usable? Or would you have to get phase two done first prior to the phase one part being usable?
At Maple Avenue?
Yeah.
The intent right now would be to use the first year of the project to do the actual construction. Year two would be when we would be moving the children in, what you might be calling phase two.
Okay. So I'm just questioning if you would have phase two done prior to moving the kids in, or if you're gonna be doing phase two.
We would need to
Same
have
year.
completed classroom space ready to accommodate the children. Again,
This is,
where we chronically have our problems are our fiscal year breakouts. The year 2014 begins on January 1st of 2014. School district might be looking at July 1st, August 1st of 2014 for the start date of operations at that school. So we would be using the first 6 months of the year, January through July, let's say, to actually complete the classrooms and make them ready to bring the children over. Does that help? Okay.
go ahead, Earl.
Ray, looking at the matrix as a whole, Bartlett, Maple Ave, and some of the work you want to do at the high school,
Yes,
well, this stuff is broken out into 2013 and 2014.
right.
Are you looking at one bond issue or two bond issues?
Two bond issues. And what we would probably do is actually schedule releases or bond releases, what we would be drawing from. There will definitely be two individual bonds. Sue, you can check me on that. One for the high school operation, one for the elementary school reconstruction as proposed this past year. And as far as drawing funds from the first issue for the elementary school, we would probably sequence fund disbursements.
Well, I think my question is because if we look at, for
I have the
example,
same question.
the Bartlett Phase Two renovations,
Mm-hmm.
we see $2 million in 13 and essentially $5 million in 14.
Correct.
For Mountain View, I'm sorry, for Maple Ave, we see $6 million in 13, $2 million in 14.
Right.
And then in the high school, we've got 2.8
And 13.
in 13.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, are we looking at essentially a
Two different bonds.
$11 million bond,
No.
$10.8 million bond
Yeah.
in 13, and a,
$7 million.
He said he said they were gonna ask for a
And
separate,
14?
he said they're gonna ask for a separate bond
okay, then are we,
for the high school.
okay, then are we looking at three bonds?
No.
No, we're looking
Two.
at two, Earl. One's
For
gonna
the
be
elementary,
Hang on, Sue, one,
one is going to be valued at $15 million for the elementary work. Actual recognition of revenue or bringing in the bond revenue would be phased over 2 years to try to control financing costs.
that answers my question.
High school is a standalone, that happens, $2.8 million in 2013.
Okay.
So you're not jeopardizing a pass on the bond in 2013 to get started on both Maple Avenue and Bartlett, and the possible fail on a bond in the
14.
following year, which would not provide you with funding to finish the project. You're not doing that, are you?
No,
No.
it's going
Good.
to be one
That's
single
all
issue.
that was the same
Yeah.
question I had for Earl.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing, but I was waiting, letting him go first.
Yeah.
That's why I had asked my question about the phase, because I was like, well, what about if 14 fails and you don't have
So
the
you've got that in your
furniture
contingency
to put
plan.
into that space? And you
You've got
can't use
that
it
all figured out.
We do.
Then we don't have to talk
Hopefully.
about it anymore.
Good.
There's a thing
Marvelous.
called earning interest on unused bond proceeds, and that's something we're not supposed to do, so,
And we're not gonna talk about it.
okay.
So the last item is the performance upgrades at Maple Avenue, Ray.
We've
Line
covered
250.
that.
Okay.
It's the
Same
same
as-
project work as Bartlett.
All right, so we're done with Maple. Does anybody have any questions on Maple Avenue portion of the matrix? Mark?
I would just comment, I like the idea of thinking of exotic fuels for the schools. I had a pleasure of visiting the New Ipswich Messinic School this past season. They heat that entire school with wood pellets. And I'll tell you what, they do a fantastic job. It's a green school. They've converted it. They do a lot of work in that school. And just, you know, it's something to think about. Don't shortchange yourself on new ideas. I like the idea of gas. If we had the natural gas or propane gas, I think we'd be in a much better position.
All right.
Yeah, we've seen significant savings at Bartlett, now that we're natural gas there.
I
That
will
was a
dwell
good
on the
move.
heating.
Okay.
Please, Ray, let's move on.
Okay, first project at Mountain View looks to be on your line 262.
Yep.
Okay, and that's for the refurbishment of the Hilltop Gym and Cafeteria area. The project that was presented to CIP last year was for a much larger activity. Due to continuing push-outs because of budget considerations, the project has been scaled down. Originally, we wanted to include lighting system, audio systems, a new floor, and a curtain rigging system for the stage area at Mountain View. That has now been scaled down to lighting and the rigging and the curtains. The Mountain View Partnership has been generous enough to work with the school district, and they have provided for the audio upgrade, a new sound system. And the flooring work is now, we've been able to scale back on exactly what it was we wanted to do there, and to put in a new vinyl tile on top of the existing flooring and eliminate the need for the sports flooring that we were considering originally. So this project now has been scaled back from $78,000 to a projected $30,000 costs, and it's now been rescheduled out to 2016.
Okay. Any, go ahead.
We talked, the next project I have here is line 263. It's for boiler replacement. Same story as the Maple Avenue activity. On this end, we're going to be looking at 2 boilers versus 1. Larger units, more costly. The oil tank replacement project, which is line 264. Again, the same explanation that was offered for Maple Avenue applies to this. Installed in 1989. We've had to replace the protection, the tank protection system last year. So it's necessary to keep this one on the matrix, and we have it scheduled for 2015. It'll be a companion project to the boiler system. And again, dependent upon the type of heating technology or fuel technology, will determine what the costs will be with respect to tank replacement and soil remediation. Line 265 talks to a new roofing system at Mountain View Middle School. The roofing on the building now, 85 to 90% of it is the same roofing that was put on the building when it was constructed back in 1989. It's time to replace it. We've had some emergency repair work that we've had to conduct over there this past year to the tune of almost $5,000. So we have that on the matrix for 2014. It hasn't changed. It's a project that's coming at us and that we'll need to take on.
Want to go now, or you want to wait till he finishes this section?
I just want to ask about, is this going to improve the energy efficiency of the roof system? It's the largest portion of the building, surface of the building.
Yeah.
You're going to take it all off or just add on top of it?
The plan right now is to strip it and replace. It's, there's a lot of asphalt shingle that's beginning to curl.
Okay.
What kind of a
To
roof
be
is
honest
it?
with you though, Al, I mean, I don't know that I'm really comfortable explaining exactly what it is that they're going to be doing.
Okay.
Well, it's not a flat roof, is it?
In some
Some
areas it
instances,
is, yeah.
All right, but it's
There's
some
some
standard
shingle.
asphalt shingles and some flat, it's a
In others,
combination.
yes, it's a combination,
Okay.
yeah. But I'm sure whatever makes the most sense with respect to, is the approach that the district would take.
Ivan?
I was just wondering, for the boiler, you were looking out in the future, talking about new technologies. The same with roofing. I mean, we talk about asphalt and 25-year. I mean, it'd be nice if you could get a 40-year roof. And looking at some of these new metal roofs or the newer composite materials or whatever,
Yeah.
is that being looked at and factored in?
It certainly will be when the time comes, and we go out for a bid. We'll be speccing a roof system and see what we can do for the amount of money that we have available to us.
Okay, one more line.
New project is the replacement of all exterior doors over at Mountain View. This is scheduled, this is the first time you see it. We're looking to execute on this project in 2016. And I apologize, I don't have the exact count. I believe there's 37 doors, exterior doors at Mountain View Middle School. They're all steel-clad doors, and what we're beginning to see over time is that where there has been water penetration inside the doors, they're beginning to bow, buckle, and deform. If this continues, what we can anticipate is increasing difficulty in securing the building, doors not closing properly, losing heat in the wintertime, and in essence becoming a potential hazard where if a door jams and there's a need for an immediate evacuation of the building, we could potentially have problems there. So the district is anticipating the worst and trying to propose the entire replacement activity for each one of those exterior doors.
This type of project tiptoes in between maintenance and CIP projects, in my opinion. I mean, if you have a portion of your doors that are failing, I would say replace a portion of your doors under your maintenance project versus making it a capital project and replacing all the doors because a third of them need to be replaced. So I'm just cautioning the district on the difference between maintenance items and capital project. Alan?
I'd like to talk in favor of it because I know what today's technology on doors, frames, insulation is vastly different than when this building was built.
Well, okay.
Having been in that school on numerous occasions, a lot of those frames are already held together with screws and plates,
Understood.
door frames, right now.
Understood.
So the maintenance has been considerable, but
Okay.
the, probably represents 5% of the heat loss in that building in the wintertime, those doors
Well
that
said.
were put in that building.
Any questions on the Mountain View portion of the matrix? You're on this committee, Gail, if you want to speak, you know, you can speak.
She's awful quiet.
She's busy trying to keep up with all of us. All right, Ray, well,
Okay.
Mountain View seems to be in the rearview mirror.
Okay, let's move on to the high school then.
Yeah.
Line 269 is the perennial rebuild of Barnard Park, the track and jumping pit facility.
And there's no money anywhere.
There's no money.
No, I mean, it's not on our matrix.
No, we're all hoping that we're
Looking for
going to
memo
win the
item.
lottery on this one and have a number of bake sales, and that's how we'll finance it, putting the humor aside. What has happened is that the selectmen and the school board did meet together back on April 30th, and an agreement was reached that this should be a joint project, that the school district and the town pool resources, available resources, and to go in and actually try to get an upgrade done over at that facility. I believe everybody involved with it now understands the need to replace the track facility or rebuild it. And the thought is if we do combine the project using resources from both sides, it'd probably be doable.
At what site, Ray?
This is going to be at the existing Barnard site.
You're not talking about moving into the high school property?
Right.
Okay, I want to make that clear, because
Not this one.
that's where the last project was. Okay.
Not this one. The Parks and Rec folks will be presenting, I think on the 21st is when you have them scheduled. They will be presenting their findings on costs and scope of project to you at that time.
Ray, I will say, and you know, you've both served on this committee and you've been presenting the last several years. And I know that many of us have clamored for years that the school district and the town need to look at the Barnard Park track facility as not just a school issue and not just a town issue, but a joint issue. And I for one, am very, very pleased to see that finally, at least after the last 3 or 4 years, something is happening here. It shouldn't have been a standalone project for either the town or the school district. It has to be a joint effort. And I will acknowledge, I mean, I have been using the track for walking lately, because at least then I can figure out how far I'm going. And the track itself is garbage. It's awful.
Well, Brian, is Parks going to be bringing in a presentation on this? Because it's not on the matrix right now.
Yeah. This is the first that I've gotten word of it. When I put this into the matrix is when I first learned of it. So, I mean, I could talk to Parks and Rec to see if they're gonna be submitting a separate worksheet or something. Do we wanna keep it in the Parks and Rec line, or do we wanna keep it in this line? I don't know, but
I only ask because if we're talking of a multi-million-dollar project to construct a track and field project at the high school, is the town gonna wanna support a very expensive project to also do a track at Barnard? Or should the track at Barnard go away and do other things at Barnard, utilize that area for other functions? So that remains to be seen when Parks comes in. Alan?
Parks and Rec has one in there, 25K.
Yeah, but that's nothing compared to 2.8 million.
I
That
know,
doesn't
but it
even-
says
that doesn't
Barnard
even
Track Rehab is what it says.
Resurface.
Okay. All right, well,
5K doesn't even resurface.
let's move on.
Okay.
Well, I think, I got a concern here about whether or not we should put in some type of placeholder money here. When we looked at the final matrix from last year, we're looking at a $2.3 million project.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's probably gonna, if we use the existing facility, it should be coming in at somewhat less than that, because there's a lot of site work that is not gonna have to be done. But is it reasonable for us to put in some kind of amount either here, or when Rick comes in, do we push him for some kind of amount so that we know
Sure.
that there is gonna be some taxpayer funding of this thing coming from someplace.
Well, it's
The-
not, it's neither our place to put anything in, it's up to them to make a submission form and submit it. It's not up to us to put anything in, so let's make that clear.
If I could just respond to your concern though, Earl, the 2.3 or now $2.8 million project at the high school encompasses much more than just the construction of a track. It also addresses renovations to the existing theater, construction of a new storage building, installation of field seating around the athletic fields, football and baseball diamonds, and the installation of lighting to allow for night games. The last time the school district submitted an estimate for reconstruction of the Barnard track and construction of a jumping pit at Barnard, we were talking in terms of a couple $100,000.
Well, when we look at the matrix of August 11th, 2011, we've got, what I see here is $2.3 million, $800,000 plus $1.5 million for build new Goffstown High School track and jump facility, and then another $450,000 GHS theater infrastructure improvement and construction of storage facility. So there you've got, you know, what, $2.7 million for those two projects. 2.7, 2.8, you know, I'm not, in this day and age, I'm not gonna quibble about $100,000.
Again, I
Let's
think
let's
the.
get to the point, what's your point?
Well, my point is that, you know, we still have this $2.8 million line that we're gonna take a look at next. And that, you know, does that really include the track facility or not?
The best answer to that question is 2 tracks. One at the high school, which would be used to support all of the NHI AA requirements for track and field events, thus allowing Goffstown High School to be able to host a home meet. The work that was going to be done at Barnard Park, again, under the auspices, I thought, of the Parks and Rec folks, was going to be a rehabilitation of that track. I think tearing it up and laying down a new track surface. Both would be available to the community. Preference at the high school, though, would be for high school use first. Community could come in afterwards, and there would also be a track facility for the community over at the Barnard area.
Okay, so that's a little different answer than you did, I think, than what you gave Tim's question about building a track facility at the high school.
I think it was pretty close to the same. We're talking about 2 tracks at 2 locations at this point.
Okay.
One to be paid for by a bond, and one to be paid for by taxpayer money through the Parks and Recreation and the Board of
I
Selectmen.
understand that now, but I'm on record as being skeptical.
All right. All right, we can, anybody else have other comments on that? Otherwise, do you have more to go on the GSHS, line 271?
Line 271.
Is where we were just talking.
Is what we were just talking about, the track. Again, enhancements to playing fields, installation of lighting to allow for night games over there, hugely successful last year. It would be a great boon for the community. And in essence, construction of a new storage building for all of the drama and theatrical equipment that's stored in hallways now, and is problematic with respect to
Yeah, the fire
actually,
department
yeah,
doesn't.
fire department is discouraging that practice.
I don't know if it's important to our deliberations, but this is basically 3 projects rolled into one with $1 figure, and we don't see any breakdown on that. I don't know if we're entitled to it or not, but, what is being spent on
Right.
each element.
Okay, again, I can send that
And that goes back
detail to you.
That goes back to Earl's question on the 2011 matrix, which had them broken down.
Okay.
You can get back to us on that if you want, Ray. You don't have to do
Sure.
it tonight.
What we can do is to send that in to you, and it would be part of the bond presentation, the bond hearing presentation that was made back in December.
Okay.
We can send you copies of that.
Okay. Is that where you were going with it?
Yeah.
It was broken down on the matrix in 11, but now it's all rolled into
Yeah,
one
that's
big
part- that's
project.
certainly part of where I was going.
I thought so.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
The track for Barnard shows justification for it as, the reason is that because the high school track, or high school students can't host a home event. So are you envisioning that the high school students would use the Barnard one? Or I guess, are you trying to get
No.
one or the other or both? Or, because
Okay.
it sounds like, justification for the Barnard one
He did,
is
he said
still,
that the high school was not going to use the Barnard track. He
that's
just
what's
said it.
written on his worksheet here, that,
Yeah, you read the
Okay,
worksheet.
that worksheet is a carryover from what the school district used last year, Brian.
okay.
And I would look for the updated project description to be coming from the town side.
Okay.
And to answer your question, would the school district
Turned
be
it to the matrix. I
using
didn't stay with the
a
work.
refurbished park at,
Get back to it.
or a refurbished track at Barnard? The answer is possibly yes, but as a practice facility only, not to host meets.
As long as you got the one approved for the high school.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So, okay.
So, are we gonna remove line 269 from the Goffstown High School matrix? Because the Goffstown High School is not talking about funding this.
We're talking about participating with the town, so
Oh, you are talking about
Yes,
participating
cost share.
monetarily.
cost share with the town.
Okay, then we'll
yes.
leave it in until you decide something.
Okay. We're waiting on what a value might be, and then that would be the update to the matrix.
All right, next line.
The next one I have is line 272, which is entitled Event Parking and Hardscape of Traffic Areas. This is an old project. It's been presented to you before. It's to expand parking at the high school in the rear of the facility. Multiple activities are scheduled at the same time over there. Parking spaces are at a premium. As part of this project, we're also looking at not a proposal, but an idea that was shared with us by DPW, and that is to expand the roadway in the rear of the high school to accommodate two-way traffic, easing some of the morning traffic and afternoon traffic on Mast Road.
That was asked by me about 5 years ago.
Yeah. So the idea would be to, entryway and egress points at the high school
Absolutely.
could be changed.
Because right now you funnel all the back parking lot traffic through the front parking lot in the morning.
That's right.
And there's no point in sending 600 vehicles through the front parking lot.
That's correct.
Very good thought. I'm glad you're doing that. Let's move that up to 2013, Ray.
2015.
You're prejudiced.
No, it's been a,
It took a while, but the seed is,
we talked about this a long time ago.
Okay.
Okay,
273 is a new project for this year.
we
Sorry,
skipped over the bond renovation and addition bonds because that's something that's in place and we're not talking about that, right?
That's
Okay,
right.
good.
Should that not have a line number?
And I
however?
have a note on my thing already that I need to renumber these, because there's the few numbers that have gotten skipped. so.
Okay. Again, the renovation and addition bond, this is the 2001 activity. School district went out and refunded bonds back in November 2010 to come up with savings and interest payments. This is the payout on that
Good.
project. Okay.
Next.
Next is the cafeteria and gymnasium door replacement. We've got that scheduled for 2015. The project is to replace all of the wooden doors in the gym area right now with metal doors. Tie them into the emergency or fire alarm system via magnetic closers. What's happening now, the doors are aged. The hinge activities are getting a little bit rocky. Doors are being repaired, replaced. It's time to put some new stuff in there. There's a total of 22 doors that would need to be replaced on that. It's the 300 wing locker replacement, which is the last project we have on the high school. Some of you may be familiar with the current locker setup. The 300 wing is the section of the building that has lockers that are approximately 6 inches wide. Students can't get backpacks into it, have difficulty getting winter jackets into it. The intent is to replace those with
They have trouble
the
getting other
standard
students in them, too.
standard size lockers. So, and there is a cost savings involved with this. Currently, the half pint lockers are given to the freshmen as they enter the school, and we won't have to do that anymore. If everybody has a standard size locker, the thought is that you keep the same locker for 4 years, and all of the costs, the annual costs associated with rekeying or changing combinations would now go away.
Anybody have any questions on the Goffstown High School portion of the matrix?
Well, my son will be in favor of the wider lot. Definitely, because he's got one of the little ones.
So we have no questions from the committee? All right, we'll move on to Glen Lake.
There are no projects scheduled
good
at
thing.
Glen Lake.
That's new school.
No expansion plans on the horizon?
Jeez.
No, that got changed, remember?
I'm just asking again.
No, it got changed due to finances.
That's why they're doing Bartlett and Maple Ave.
Yep,
Yeah.
but they told us last year. It was
Again, if
financial.
you remember,
It
yeah,
was
the history,
financially.
and what might be driving your question, is historically, the thought was to look at the Glen Lake site as
A
a
third
potential.
full elementary school.
Yeah,
And you had that placeholder for 14.3 million, I believe, for a long time.
right, right.
And you've
Got some
added up
real
to,
numbers.
you added up to 2 elementaries, and you came up with a sizable reduction.
All told, because we are accomplishing both the renovation and upgrade for each of those 2 existing elementary facilities for the same price.
Okay, we're running here, let's keep going here, let's not slow down.
District-wide, line 280, we're talking about portable classroom leases for elementary classroom space. Scheduled to begin in 2014. Again, this is bond dependent. We get a bond, this comes off. The bond doesn't happen, we seriously need to start looking at
Additional space.
additional space, classroom space. The solution would be to lease a portable. These would be 2 portables, one for the Maple Avenue site, one for the Bartlett site. Not desirable in any case. There's no room really.
Let's see, where do you put them?
That's in addition to the portables you got now at Bartlett.
Correct, correct.
All right. I'm sorry, Lowell, go ahead.
But didn't you say earlier that those existing portables were gonna go away?
If the bond
If the bond
passed-
passes.
If the bond passed.
If the
We
bond
would-
doesn't pass, we'll need additional portables.
Oh, okay, so this would only be if it,
If the bond fails and they run out of
Fails.
classrooms.
okay, I missed that
Right.
part.
Next,
All right, next one of the district projects is the, actually, the debt schedule, if the bond passes,
this is the debt schedule.
right?
Good.
The remaining lines on the exhibit are really a play out of what we would expect to see in the way of revenues, offsetting revenues. I have to, again, point to the fact that the work at the elementary schools And the work at the high school, if we were to do the theater renovation and track and facility upgrade work, it's highly unlikely building aid would be available, even given the latest moves up in Concord. So we would not be looking at an offset.
Ray, let's go down to line 293, the
Sure.
Bartlett Capital Reserve.
Right.
Is that an appropriation, or is that something you have on savings right now?
We've
That's currently in a trust fund.
Okay?
Yeah, I was gonna say, as trustees, I know we have 340-something thousand in the Bartlett Capital Reserve MBIA account.
And it includes the in the memo side, it says includes the additional 300,000 requested by the SAU for 2012, so that passed and that was voted on and funded?
It was voted down.
So what is the meaning of that memo?
I'm sorry, the memo should have been updated. It
All
was
right.
not.
So that memo needs to say what or go away?
That memo should say there's $345,000 available in trust to
Okay.
support the cost for the renovation work at Bartlett.
Trust funds available.
Right.
Does anybody have any questions about the offsetting revenues that Ray could answer for us? And we're assuming that building aid is not on the horizon based on the current situation in Concord?
That's correct.
So all of these requests would be taxpayer funded?
Correct.
Okay. Good. Any final questions for Ray? Well, we got him here, you know, you might not get him back.
I do have a question for Brian.
Okay, Brian.
Any impact fees or anything available for any of these projects?
Got used to do the plans
There,
last year.
yeah, most of the impact fees have been drained for the architecture and engineering on
They
the,
were
on the
withdrawn,
two
yeah.
schools. There is a little bit, I mean, we collect, you know, the recent change to the impact fees increased the school impact fee to something in the range of 63 or, yeah, I don't remember what it was.
Per household?
Exactly, but per unit, per single-family house,
$6,000 per house.
per house, yeah. So,
People you lining up to build
you know,
houses now.
every house that gets built, you know, that's another
That's why nobody's building.
$6,000 that comes in.
Oh, and that's good, because they've got no place to put the kids that are coming with those
So,
houses.
and I do know that, you know, if the apartments at the Moose Club Park get built, those will be a lesser amount because they're apartments, so they'll probably be in the range of $3,500 per unit. But that's 48 units that would, you know, be collected at the time when they do their C of Os for those. And so that might be next year or
That's
so.
anticipated but not received at this time.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Anything else?
August 2013, to be exact.
Maybe.
Do we have any other questions for Ray representing the school? How about for Hank Boyle? He's been sitting over there and said nothing. Well, if no one has any more questions for Ray, I will thank him for his efforts on behalf of the school board and for his professional presentation.
Well, thank you, everybody. See you next
you.
year.
Unless we invite you back.
See you next month.
I'm
Ray.
hoping.
Yeah, you can't wait, right, Ray?
We have a scheduled rerun for,
We have the option to ask people back for questions as part of our deliberations. Or we can make formal requests for information and it will be submitted to Brian administratively. So that is part of our process.
Okay, so, again, clarification, the bond, or the project data requested, the breakdown at the high school stuff, I'll feed that back through Brian, is that?
You really aren't entitled to it. You're requesting an appropriation of X amount of dollars for projects. We're curious as to how it was broken out based on the past year where you did break it out for us.
We'll give you the update. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
Night, Ray.
All right, before we get a motion for adjournment, our next meeting is Thursday, June the 21st. Is there anybody that will be unable to make that meeting that they know of in their calendar? And we did cancel the July 5th meeting for the callbacks and deliberation.
Correct.
Our next meeting is gonna be admin, GTV, all mostly short and sweet. The police department is generally not that bad. The chief doesn't really ask for a lot usually. So I think we're gonna have a lot of people, but we should have a fairly speedy meeting, I would think. Unless admin is gonna hold us up for a while. Now, Brian, could you check and be sure that everybody on that list is it planning to attend, and you could advise us if someone's not going to attend? I mean, you have Concom, HDC, I know Parks will be here, I know PD will be here, and I know admin will be here.
I don't believe Conservation Commission has any items that they've submitted.
Is admin taking up all those other columns and submitting on their behalf, do you know? Derek might be doing GTV, planning, EDC, and,
I don't believe we got anything from GTV either.
Okay.
So some of those may just be,
and how about the Historic District? Have they made any interest in showing up?
no, there's nothing from them either. So really, it should be Parks and Rec, Police,
And admin.
and Admin.
So after we finish that meeting, we have from June 21st till July 19th, which is almost a month, for everybody to be able to look over their sheets, bearing in mind that we want to try to make sure that we smooth the matrix to reduce any spikes in the tax rate, keeping in mind public safety and master plan goals. So at that time, we'll begin our deliberations and possibly begin moving things around in the matrix to what we think is a better position for them. Anything else you'd like to add there, Mr. Vice Chair?
I'm good.
Alan, please.
Just a technical question.
Yes, sir.
I look at this as kind of balancing the budget, when it's, the reason is to act upon how it affects the tax rate. And my question is, when you put the bond in there, you know, like the $6 million for, say, the Bartlett School, but that carries a heavy price in 1 year, because it's not extended out for the full length of the bond period. So if I look at this and I'm a citizen, I look at it and say, oh my God, we're spending a lot of money in 2013, when actually we're not. If the bond is, if the bond is approved at town meeting, what's the first year capitalization of it? We should at least know the first 3 or 4 years of that. So
Well, we
that-
do
that-
in most cases, but in some cases, in this case, it's been pointed out, we don't tonight.
We
So
don't have any
should-
of it.
So we should ask for that as well, Brian, on your school request. We need to have that,
Even if
those
a-
bonds expanded out at least to the end of what our matrix is at this point.
Yeah, because even though we
And-
can't predict what the rates are,
And a termination year. However, it's a 20-year bond, 15-year bond, whatever it is.
To speak to that issue, though, it does show up as an offsetting revenue. So you do put it in the line as spending it, but then down below in the offsetting revenues, it does have that same number. So it actually evens
The numbers
itself out.
wash each other
It
out.
washes it
well,
washes it
I
out.
understand.
But
I
it's a-
could-
but
I-
it's still
I
a
can read
number.
this.
But you're
I
right.
can read this.
You're right, you're right.
But the average citizen's not gonna read it. They're looking at, boom, this is how much we're gonna spend this year in CIP. That's what
Agreed.
that's the thing they're looking at.
Agreed. Ivan?
And in terms of school and some of this planning and extra classrooms and all, there was no presentation of numbers of students, and there's numbers of things coming up that might affect the number of students there. So I think sometimes it's hard to budget when you don't exactly know how many students you're gonna be housing. There's new area agreements, there's a couple more schools opening up, private schools opening up in the area, and I think some of these just cloud the issue of how many
That's a good
students
point.
we're
Well,
gonna
I have
have.
to tell you that these construction are not number of students driven, because we're already full. We can't get any fuller.
No, but I understand that, but if you
Not-
went to 2,500 students, for instance, would you had the same plans? I'm not talking adding students, I'm saying less students.
Decreasing students.
Decreasing students.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, our numbers have been steady.
I
They haven't
understand.
been coming down.
I understand, but projections and numbers of students are pretty important for planning issues.
And we have had presentations by the school board on projections at our planning board meetings, based on what they, there've been statements that the elementary school populations are declining, but we
Yes.
don't know that in Goffstown at this time.
Yes,
Uh,
that's my point.
That was part of the
Impact fee.
impact fee statement, and there
It
was
was-
a long outrage, there was a long study done on, that went out in a number of years on the student population as being decreasing.
Several years ago, I remember when Darrell Lockwood was superintendent, he came in one year with a chart going back 3 or 4 years on the number of students in each of the schools and projecting forward, 3, 4 years, based on figures that they got, essentially, I believe, from the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, as to what the demographics of Goffstown would be. And as I say, that was probably, had to be at least 5 years ago. I don't think we've seen any of those numbers since.
Oh, they're in
When-
the school impact fee study.
I understand, but I'm saying this committee.
Yeah, that's
When-
correct. But it's there, and they have presented it to the town.
When
It shows
the,
a significant decrease in the number of students.
when the
Believe that
Moose,
when I
when the
see
Moose
it.
Club condo project was first born, the school representatives came forward to our planning board meeting and asked us to reject the plan based on school population, and that they were saying that there was gonna be a sharp increase in elementary school children, which is gonna have an adverse effect on the schools that are already overcrowded. We accepted that information at face value, and we put it into our deliberations. Don't get me wrong, Alan, I know where you're going with this.
I know.
However, they criticized us on the school board, I should back up, not the school board. Members of the community criticized us for the workforce housing project behind the Rite Aid because it generated more special needs students than they had allowed for.
Right.
And the special needs students drive the cost of the education up because they are classified as special needs students.
And you can't compare the two,
I know you can't, but these were points that were brought forward in public session.
but you can't compare the two.
I agree.
That's a known statement, and there's been plenty of studies out there to prove that point.
Well, I think you have to understand also, when you have an increase in your special needs population, you also have an increase in your space needed, because a lot of those kids have programs that take up more real estate.
And they don't,
Then-
they only have to be non-English speaking to be considered special needs.
Yep, and that's exactly
That's
what
our
hit us.
criteria for special needs students. They don't speak English.
That's what hit us at Bartlett.
I know you do, because we were
Lot of those
we were
folks-
told that at our meeting here.
Yes.
And I was told that by a special needs teacher
Right.
in the Goffstown school system.
Would special needs kids also need additional staff potentially?
Absolutely.
Occasionally, depends. And we had our English as a second language at Bartlett. We got hit very hard with the workforce housing.
All right, well, I think we can bury this discussion for now. Anybody have any other information that we need to bring forward tonight as part of tonight's discussion?
Go Celtics.
Move to adjourn.
All right, Suzanne has
You don't have,
motioned.
you don't have it on your,
I'll
I
second.
have it on my phone.
Suzanne Tremblay has made a motion to
Oh,
adjourn,
hasn't
seconded by Gail LeBrecq.
started
Thank
right
you for
now.
speaking up
I know.
first time. Other than your very great question
Sit
a
here a
moment
while.
ago. Okay, motion, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Chair votes yes. Thank you, everyone, for your